Check, check.
Let me see what it looks like.
Ooh, that's really hot.
Check, check. Let me see what it looks like.
How's that?
How's that?
His mic is a little hot.
Still hot, yeah.
Too hot. Too hot. Too hot. Too hot. We live, y'all. We literally doing this. Too hot. Too hot. Too hot. We live, y'all. We literally doing this. Like, live.
Turn it.
We didn't get a chance to pre-record an episode for today, so because we've been out of town, we've both been out the country, so we're going live for the first time. So bear with us. This was going to be entertaining. But also, it could serve as motivation for you that it ain't got to look pretty. It's just you just got to do it. So some of y'all have been putting stuff off because you've been trying to make it perfect, and you want to come off perfect, and life don't work like that. Sometimes you just got to get messy and get it started, and let it work itself out, and it's gonna be great. Like this episode, it's gonna be dope. As soon as we get the visual and the audio and everything straight.
Audio sounding straight.
Well, the audio sounding straight, he said, I'm going to back my mic off a little bit just so that I'm not as hot as I look.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Bruh, I've been boxing.
Yeah.
I started boxing. First of all, hello out there, TV family, TV land, YouTube TV land. Welcome to Self Mastery Sundays, where we focus on the glue of life, God, love, and you. I'm your coach, Steve Bacon.
Bacon.
How? And I'm with Pop. And that's not because he old. It means the professor of possibility. I'm calling him Pop because he old.
That's right.
We call him the professor of possibility, even though he is old. So, we're getting it in. Man, first of all, I started boxing. And mainly because I wanted to be able to punch you in the face.
That's right.
In case it go down.
Well, here's how
here
that's
on the
going to
podcast.
go. You want to know how that's going to go? You're going to get one shot because being a collegiate wrestler.
First of all, I wrestle too.
I'm going to take the shot, and then I'm going to be too close to you to be able to swing.
I know how to wrestle too.
So,
I wrestled in high school too.
Oh,
I didn't win any of my matches, but I wrestled.
I said collegiate. NC2As, college level.
Yeah, but when you wrestled in
you
college,
went out 1 year in high school.
When you wrestled in college in a small town that you grew up in, there was probably like 3 people on the college team, and there probably were no blacks because it was segregated back then. So, considering that slavery had just got abolished when you were in high school.
Yeah, so the idea of Self-Mastery Sunday is this, you're seeing this in real time, me mastering patience. And so just being patient, not reacting, not responding to every trigger, every button push, every jab or anything to that effect. It's me just being at peace in the moment. That's called self-mastery.
So, anyway, what's up, man? Welcome back from Bali.
Hey, thanks.
How do you feel about going live today?
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Not working.
what's not working?
The program just gone black. I don't know why.
On which camera? On
It's-
all the cameras?
Oh wait. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I don't, we have no idea. Listen,
No, it's cool.
this is going to be
because
so
he's
fun.
figuring this out in real time.
My 13-year-old son is behind the controls right now, figuring it out as we go.
You got it figured out?
This is
it
probably
working?
going to be one of my
Cool.
favorite episodes simply because
He's doing that.
my son is behind the scenes doing the work. Now, I don't know what the hell this is going to turn out to look like,
But here's the
but
thing.
it's going to be
That's
so
super
dope.
cool is that I really appreciate his willingness like he wanted to jump right in, and he's never run this type of thing before. And he's basically directing. He's cutting the different camera angles as we're talking.
Right.
And like literally came in, sat down, showed him what buttons do what, and just his eagerness to jump in and make it happen, which is really cool. So appreciate you.
Me too, and I'm all for child labor. Like, there's a reason why God created kids, and that's what that. Listen, this is what I was told when I was a kid.
By the way,
this is what I was told. Yeah, pay him with life. So this is this is what I was told growing up. Like, it's amazing how like belief systems just get passed down from generation to generation, and it was like, I remember asking my dad one time. I was like, "Hey, can we get a dishwasher?" And he was like, "Why? I got two, you and your sister."
Wow.
He was like, "Why do you think God made kids? Child labor."
I mean, we had a dishwasher in our house, but I still had to load the dishwasher and unload it.
Wait,
so
what century was the dishwasher created in?
Oh man.
I'm just curious.
He's coming in hot because we haven't seen each other in a couple weeks. And
I was in Panama. He was in Bali.
And I totally lit him up when he first walked in.
He did.
He's got a bunch of stories running around in his head. This is what self-mastery does not look like.
Excuse you? Excuse you? But no, seriously, thank you, son, for having the courage to do this. I'm just curious, though. Like, what was going on through your mind when we asked you to do it? Like, what went through your mind?
I was like, just why not?
He said,
Go and try it out.
why not? Just try it out.
Yeah.
I love that attitude.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool.
I love that because that means there's no fear of failure in that boy's body.
Yeah. Yeah.
To just go, for his first response to be, why not, means me and his mother did a really good job of no fear of failure.
Yeah.
Putting no fear of failure into him. Just why not? I love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely love that. And that's the thing, though, right? At this age, you get to see what kind of parenting was done.
Oh, you just wait. You just wait. It's just beginning.
What?
You get to see how your parenting is.
Oh, the teenage years? Yeah. You're experiencing that right now.
Yeah, but I'm not outing anybody right now. I'm not live, not recorded. It just is what it is.
Oh, man, to be in high school again.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah. So what's been going on in your world since the last time we sat down? That last episode we did was pretty hot. So.
Yeah, that was... which one was that?
I was coming in hot with God being thought.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we just got back from Bali and Singapore and Manila, and we were in Bali for like a mastermind workshop, and it was really good. It was, what was interesting to me, what I always find fascinating is I love going to different places and then getting immersed in the culture and learning new things about the culture. And the thing about the culture there is, what was fascinating to me is the belief systems. And though a lot of the influence comes from Hinduism, from India, there's also Buddhist influence because of the location of where it is in Asia. And they have their own flavor of Hinduism. So traditionally, Hinduism is belief in many gods, and what in Balinese culture, their version of Hinduism is there's one god, and there's different characteristics of that one god. So you have the destroyer, the creator, and the protector, which is and not in the same order, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And the way that we had a guide on the last day that we were there, and the way that he described it was like, okay, you have Steve as the dad, right? So Steve comes home from work and he's the dad, but when he's at work, he's the director of, you know, whatever the thing is that you do career wise, and then there's Steve the athlete when he's in the gym, boxing or whatever. And so you have 3 different versions of Steve, but it's still Steve.
Right.
And so that was the most simplistic way to describe it, but I thought it was really cool and fascinating at the same time, because I'm coming from a Judeo-Christian background with the triune God, Father, Son, Spirit, and it was like, and so I'm trying to tie those things together with what their culture was, what their belief system was. And I thought it was fascinating that though they don't have much, if any, Christian influence in that space at all.
Yeah.
And yet they've still come to a one God in a 3-in-1 triune God experience.
I think it's interesting you bring that up. And I didn't even know we were going to go this direction. Like, sometimes I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And then I'm like, I know what I want to talk about. And then we start talking. And then it's just completely different. So I think from now on, we should just name the episode, like, after we're done talking.
I mean, isn't that what we do?
I guess. But, no, I think it's really interesting that you bring that up, because I remember being in, like, a really deep meditation. And as you know, I'm like truly a history buff. Like,
Yeah.
I love history. I don't know what it is, but I love history. I will watch history documentaries and read history all day. And I thought something was really fascinating when I was really searching for the God in me, right? And, Hinduism being one of the oldest religions, 4,000 years, right? And then Buddhism, and then I started looking up, like, teachings of, like, the masters, right? Throughout history, throughout cultures, throughout time periods. And then I look at people like today, like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru, or even our friend, Steve Hardison, right? Just masters of today. And I literally asked myself, I said, because it's going back to what you were just talking about with the triune and one. I said, it's interesting to me how every single master throughout all the ages that reached a certain level of consciousness preached the same message.
And what was that?
Unity.
Message?
We're one with the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was fascinating, because these are people who lived during separate times, but during a time that there was no mass communication.
You mean there was no internet?
I mean, the internet was barely born when I was born. I mean, I can only imagine what y'all did back in the day to send messages. Was it carrier pigeons?
No, it was smoke
I
signals.
was watching. First of all, have you been watching? I know I'm going way off on a tangent, but have you been watching House of Dragon? Because it is really good.
I have not.
You haven't?
I have
Oh my
not,
God,
no.
so good!
No.
House of Dragon this season, amazing.
I just started the latest season of Umbrella Academy, so
I tried to get into that in the first episode and I couldn't. Is
Yeah.
it just slow?
First season, first episode, I can't remember. It was enough to get me to watch the second one,
Okay.
but some of it is slow paced.
Okay.
So the beats of the story vary, but yes.
But anyway, back to what I was saying. I just think it's incredible how it all came down to, through different ages, through different time periods, without mass communication, that all these masters, they reach a certain level of consciousness, and then it's same message.
Mm.
And it was, for me, I was like, there's God. There's God right there. Look at all of these different cultures and religions and centuries and time periods in between, and yet every master that gets to a certain level says the same thing every time. I just thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you say that, Buddhism and Hinduism came together in Bali,
Yeah.
and then they created their own, I was like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Somebody who probably was practicing both probably reached a certain level and then bam, it's just always this message of oneness that comes through every time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's interesting that whole idea, and how did they land on that, right? How did they get to that? How did the Hinduism and the names for those Hindu gods get more prevalent than whatever the Buddhist influence was? Just how it all unfolded for them in that tiny little island in the middle of Indonesia is, to me, is fascinating.
Yeah.
Another aspect that was really cool to observe was, we come from a Western culture. Like you set your, some of the ladies had set their purses down to put their feet in the water, and when we were at the last resort that we were at, just being oceanside, and we hadn't been in the near the water on the first half of the trip. So the second half of the trip, we're by the ocean. They put their water, and there's people walking around. There's people fishing, locals and whatnot. And it was interesting to watch the women be concerned about their bags, because it was, it was 50 yards away, and there's people walking around, and they're like, this is Bali, that doesn't happen. And it's like, well, people aren't stealing stuff. No, because the belief in karma is so strong.
Yeah.
That they don't want that negativity coming back on them. And so it's a pretty safe place. Now, I'm sure there's some seedy underbelly that we don't see, right? Which exists everywhere, that in some degree or another. But for the most part, in general, it was like everybody's treating each other with kindness and respect, and there's just this gratitude for life itself. Not a bunch of material conveniences and stuff like that. But it's interesting to observe those things. Right,
coming from a Western background.
Yeah, coming from
because
Western background and watching that all unfold and go, it's intriguing.
Coming from a Western background, I've always said that the West, which I'm grateful for. Don't get me wrong. I'm a true American through and through. I'm gonna get that out there, because
especially with this sneakers on.
Right. I am a true.
Jordans.
My entire value system is American. I serve my country like I'm American through and through. And right, it's like I can love my parents, and I got some opinions about this parenting style, right? And America, the West, seems to have this underlying belief system that I call it "you ain't shit until."
Okay.
Right? Because it sounds like, because I've been to different countries where it was just peaceful to just be, to just live.
Right.
Right? And then you come to America, and it's like, it's not okay to just live.
Right.
You ain't shit if you're just out here living. You need to be striving for something.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be driving something different. And so there's always this, that what we call it, keeping up with the Jones mentality.
Yeah, or the American dream that,
Right.
The American dream is to continue to strive
Which
for
was
more.
sold by Edward Bernays, by the way.
Yeah.
Listen, TV land. Because you know what?
Here we go.
Because you know what? I get frustrated. I get frustrated at you. Trying to help you. But you don't want to listen. You don't want to do no research.
Linda.
Listen, Linda, listen. Edward Bernays. Just look up that name. Matter of fact, when you're done watching this video, go watch another one of our videos so our algorithm go up. Watch two videos. Then after that, Then after that, I want you to go watch Century of the Self. Okay, just type in Century of the Self right here on YouTube. It's a 4-hour docu-series.
After we're done, not like don't go.
And not right now. Don't
Yeah,
just click off right now. Don't you click off right now. I'm saying after you watch this one and 2 more videos. Help the algorithm.
You don't have to
Listen. After that, when we're done, and you watch 2 more videos, then I want you to just write the note down. Do it later. Edward Bernays, Century of the Self. It's a 4-hour docu-series. Yes, it's 4 hours, and it's dry. But listen, if you really want to talk about self-mastery and taking control of your mind, taking back control of your mind, you have to understand this. Because what he just said, the American dream was created by a man named Edward Bernays for the big companies to get you to buy shit.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting too is that
This is why you can't be okay just living. Because they've literally made it since the 20s that it's not okay to just live. In America, you need to buy shit in order to be somebody.
Well, and it's interesting too because the original American dream was to be able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, right? So it was more principle based. But what it evolved into, like you said, is into this, like, keeping up with the Joneses idea.
Yeah.
It evolved into, you have to have a bigger house, you have to have a better car, you have to have this, you have to have all these letters behind your name, you have to this, that, and the other thing. You have to have some big office on the corner, the corner office with all the windows, like Harvey Specter. So it's not the same thing as it was originally, the original idea behind it. But that's the world that we're living in. I remember I was shooting a documentary in El Salvador of a team of people that went to go drill a clean water well. And we were in this village.
You're such a good person. I'm sorry, finish.
Self-mastery. Be patient.
You're such a good person.
So we're in El Salvador and we're filming these people, and we're filming the villagers that they're going to benefit from this clean water well. Why was this clean water well a big deal? Well, because the water that they were using to wash their clothes, to cook their food, to drink, had all kinds of bacteria in it, dysentery, all kinds of things. So it's wreaking havoc on their health. And we interviewed the guys in the medical clinic that were serving that village. And it's like first world scenario, like no running water, no indoor plumbing, no heat. It's these little huts, dirt floors. It's first world situation. And what was fascinating to me in observing that community, because we were immersed in that community for 10 days and interviewing people that were on the team, interviewing the villagers, interviewing the people in the medical clinic, and then living there with them for that time. And what I kept coming back to and I couldn't get over was how joyful and peaceful that the kids were, that the families were, that they had no of the modern conveniences that you and I have every day. And yet their level of joy and peace and happiness was way more than ours. It was this big slap in the face of like, hey, all those things don't give you joy, peace, or happiness.
No.
And it was this simplistic understanding and gratitude just for being. A lot of them didn't have shoes, but man, they were the most joyful, happy kids that I had ever seen.
So 2 things on that, right? Like, first of all, that's a beautiful story. And I've
Yeah.
witnessed stuff like that for myself. And I grew up like that because we didn't have shit. And we was joyful and happy and, and all
Yeah.
that. And we didn't have a whole lot of modern conveniences,
Yeah.
right? However, two things. One, no, things don't make you happy.
Yeah.
That's literally my client base, right? My private coaching practice and being a spiritual teacher for the wealthy and the successful is, yes, you've become extremely successful at the sacrifice of your peace and your family, right?
Yeah, that's all too familiar story.
Which we could do a whole episode on, and we should, because we both become very successful. Our entire circle of friends is millionaires, and we can see how their some families fall apart, and but
Yeah.
my point is I also want to say that it's a both and with the stuff or the material, right? And the joy. It's a both and. And the reason why I want to point that out is because I grew up basically with the belief system that in order to be happy, I needed to be poor. Because
Yeah. That's a different
that
spin
is
on
what
it,
the
for
black
sure,
church, I don't know what it's peddling now, but when I was a kid growing up, that is what the predominant main thinking was. Now, I get it now. It's because we didn't have shit, and so you got to make yourself feel good somewhere, right? Jesus loves the poor, right? I can't stand that fucking dogma. I can't stand it. And yes, Jesus loves the poor, but Jesus also loves the rich too. Let's not make it one or the other. It's either or.
Right, yeah.
And then these poverty pimping pastors. What? It's the fucking truth. These poverty pimping pastors are out here convincing people that basically is holier to be poor, and then the pastors who are out here preaching prosperity are considered money hungry. I just think that's asinine. Hold on. Yeah. I'm not talking about the personality of the person. I'm saying the indoctrination of prosperity is not wrong. Or not the indoctrination, the doctrine of prosperity is not wrong because it's written through all out the Bible. But the ones that focus on the poverty in order to be happy, and then they use in the Bible it says, well, it's easier for the man to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. And I'm like, yeah, but that entire parable, story was about a man whose self-worth was tied into his stuff.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't for, if you ain't got shit, that parable wasn't for you. There's other stories in the Bible for you if you don't have shit. But that story was for rich people whose entire self-worth is in their stuff, and they don't feel like they're worth nothing if they don't have their stuff. And I remember God tested me on this because I remember knowing I'm everything with nothing, and then I got some shit. And then I lost that shit. And God was like, now do you get that parable? I was like, oh, okay, I see. But if you ain't got shit, that story ain't for you. It's other stories in there for you to go get yours. But that one ain't for you.
Yeah. Well,
And these poverty pimping pastors keep peddling that fucking story, making people think that it's okay to be poor.
sure. And I think, even Jesus said that you'll always have the poor with you. So, but the point is,
He just said you had to be one of them.
the point is like you said, right? Self-mastery is realizing that materialism isn't what brings you joy and peace and happiness.
No.
It's knowing who you are. And I think that's the distinction in all the excited explanation that you.
Are we hearing background?
Yeah.
Right? Remember, this is live, y'all.
We're live. Well,
I think we're getting feedback from
the door. Is she knocking at the door?
His is still a little like, sounds like a robot a little bit because it's so high.
Too hot.
Oh,
Right,
my
so
voice is still too hot.
That's when you get all excited.
I know.
When he
I
talks
backed it up.
normal, it's good.
Say something.
I'm saying it right now.
Yeah, that's called.
I'm backing
that's
up.
called
I back up the
clipping.
mic. I'm backing up the
That's
mic.
clipping. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I'm gonna turn the level down a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep saying what I was saying.
Yeah, because you're gonna keep saying it anyway.
I am gonna keep saying it anyway because it need to be said.
I know.
You know, I personally, just so you know, for those of you that are like, where does Steve get his interpretations of the Bible? I believe in the esoteric interpretations of Scripture, which means I believe that the entire Bible itself is metaphors and analogies and stories that map out the consciousness of the human mind. Okay? And so I don't personally take the Bible literally. And there's a lot of people out there now who are joining what we call this New Thought movement, which simply is makes sense given how much we understand now about the human mind and how the nature of thought works and belief systems work. And so esoteric just simply means that we believe there's a deeper meaning to the scriptures and these stories, and they're all about you. And the more you explore these scriptures about you, the more you will discover and transcend. Like when Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the law, I came to fulfill the law.
Right.
Simply meaning I came to give you a deeper understanding of what these laws mean, because they're beyond just the literal.
Yeah, and what's the purpose, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that in itself is Jesus saying, I'm coming to give you the esoteric interpretations of the law. Because there are deeper meanings and deeper truths that will create an inner transformation within you so that you can experience the kingdom of heaven right here, right now, and get the salvation that you're looking for.
Well, and I think a very important distinction that you just made was reading it about you. And how you approach it. Like when you're approaching these scriptures as, it's just historical evidence, or it's just a collection of different ideas or things that you can learn from. That's true. However, the distinction that you made about reading it about you and being able to read these things and connect the dots between, okay, what's going on in this story and how am I showing up here? And what is that? And what can I learn from that? How can I, right? The whole purpose of the podcast being self-mastery is that how can I learn what I need to learn from that to be a better version of myself.
Right.
And I think that's that approach to, and it's not really reading the scriptures. The way I approach it is that how can I bake that into who I'm being?
Yeah.
And the idea of the principles of what Jesus stood for, what his biggest message, right, was love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Like, these are the fruits of the Spirit. Shout out to Steve Bacon's Fruits of the Spirit.
By the way, Wednesday nights,
Yeah.
you can catch it's now on YouTube. Don't go there right now. Do not fucking move. Don't go there right now. But afterwards, you can look up Fruit of the Spirit on the Belief Theory page, and you can start seeing my messages.
I would love somebody to comment on, like, drop a comment in the comments below to, like, would it be more entertaining to beep out the words or should we just let the words roll as they are?
It'd probably be more
I mean,
entertaining
you
to
can't
bleep
beep
them
them
out.
out live because it's live.
Right.
But
It'd probably be more entertaining to go boop. That would probably
I
be
think
way
that's
more
funny.
entertaining. I think it's funny too.
But
Cam, can we just do that from all the stuff going forward? Just beep out the curse words. It'd be more funny.
it's just entertaining.
Because people always like, why you got to curse so much? First of all, it's seasoning.
Well,
It's seasoning for my sentences.
Here's my
seasoning.
philosophy on like I hadn't cursed in 25 years, but a very well placed F-bomb, strategically placed at the right moment. There's nothing that works better.
Yeah.
And you want to hear a story why I believe that?
Why do you believe that?
After 25 years of not cursing,
Yeah.
it was probably more than 25. It's probably more like 30. Because so let's rewind back to why I wasn't cursing for that long. Because when I became a Christian, I took in 1 Corinthians where it says, "Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth." So I'm like, okay, can I communicate in a way that is wholesome and not use seasoning? And so I
First of all, wait a minute.
No.
Hold on. No. Do all white people subscribe to that because none of y'all use seasoning?
Oh, now it's a white thing. See,
It is.
this is the problem
It
with
is.
the Western culture is division. And you're dividing us
It's not.
now.
This is not about skin
This
color.
is why
This
you
about
want to be
culture.
on the podcast.
This is about culture.
You could-
No, this is not
you're
about
like,
skin
"Now I'm
color.
gonna take
It's
down
about
the white
culture.
racist regime."
Listen, just because, everybody believes in seasoning, but y'all, we talking about culture, not skin color.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
please
well,
continue.
You're the one that brought up white. So anyway, that was the situation.
I love my vanilla brothers and sisters, by the way. I love y'all.
Anyway,
Just put some seasoning on your damn food.
but what happened was we were taking Jacob to the ER, and he's sitting. It's 1:00 in the morning. He's on some bender. We don't know what he's on. We're taking him to the ER because my concern was whatever he took might have had something else in it that he didn't know, and next thing you know, it's fentanyl and he's done. So we're not taking any risks. And I'm driving. Judy's in the passenger seat. Jacob's sitting right behind me. Sydney's in the seat behind Judy. And we're going 45 miles an hour down the street, and he tries to get out while the car's moving. Sydney yells at him because she sees him opening the door. I can't grab him because of where I'm sitting. There's no way I could reach around to grab him. So what do I say? What the f-? And he froze because he had never heard me curse up until that point. And like I said, a very well-placed F-bomb will have a very powerful effect. And it stopped him from jumping out of the car. We're driving 45 miles an hour down the street.
I love that.
And so I have a different idea about that now.
It's the greatest word ever invented.
Well,
It is the most versatile word on the planet. We're not going to do a whole episode about the word fuck, but
but here's the other thing. Had I been using it regularly all the time, it wouldn't
sure.
have had that impact.
absolutely.
And so that's why I'm like, hey, if the time is right and it's necessary, then you got to do what you got to do. And I don't think that in that moment, and I have a relationship with God, and I don't believe in that moment that God's going to go, oh, you're sinning and that's bad. No, he was like, you did what you had to do to rectify that problem. And but I'm just saying, I'm unpacking something much deeper here. Is that there's this underlying idea that that can occur, then all of a sudden you're not in God's good graces. That's not true.
And that's the dogma
It is.
that
It is.
I am like so against. And you know, it's interesting because so I have like three influences, like three major influences in my quote unquote theology, right? One is Dr. Miles Monroe, right? One is Reverend Ike Carter. If you don't know Reverend Ike, listen.
Basically, he just came back in Steve Bacon's body.
He don't cuss like me though. And then third is Neville Goddard.
You're missing one. There's a fourth.
Who's the fourth? Dave Chappelle.
Sitting right next to you.
Oh,
You know it's
Eric
true.
Thurston.
You know
is
it's
one
true.
of my.
You know it's true.
He's one of my. No, seriously, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast with you,
Yeah,
because of your deep knowledge of Scripture. But you know, and Dr. Miles Monroe, he said, you know, to really find your purpose, like what are you here for?
Mm.
Figure out what you're pissed off about. And I used to think that I was pissed off about, you know, just how as minorities were treated, right? How in our neighborhoods, like where I grew up, we didn't have the best education and all of that. And so I would teach a lot about the belief system. And I literally spent the first, 10 years of my belief theory career talking about the mind and everything else.
Mm.
But that really wasn't what was pissing me off.
What was it?
The fucking dogma
Mm.
that the church preaches. And I ain't talking about all churches. So if you're offended, I'm talking about your goddamn church. Because I ain't talking about all churches. I'm not talking about all doctrines. But if you offended, it's because I'm talking about yours.
Well, I want to take a real tiny quick sidebar on that. When people are offended, there's a lot of, like you had mentioned something earlier where in an earlier episode about someone was being offended because of a word that you used. And I think that should be a trigger for people to take a look at why that's occurring. Like if you're offended at something, take a pause, take a moment and ask yourself, why is this triggering me so much? What is the work that I need to do to unpack this, why I'm offended? Because we live in a culture now that people are getting offended by every little thing. Like they're just butthurt from one thing to the next. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Those are signals. Those triggers are signals of there's work to be done internally.
Yeah.
And yet most people, just in general, I'm not saying specifically you, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that aren't doing that. They're not taking the time to do that work or to do that discovery. And what an amazing place this would be if more people did.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the idea of people doing self-discovery, oh, wow. And that was one of the things that I've learned in doing 10 years of mind work. And let me the personal development industry is massive. And it's also massively white. For a reason.
Did you say white?
White. Like Cool Whip. It's massively white. Okay? And again, some of you listening right now, because you'll notice as we do more and more of these podcasts, my natural personality is going to come out. And my natural
Oh, you mean it hasn't already?
It has not. my opinions. No. I'm serious. Because I'm getting more and more comfortable now standing my ground on my opinions. Because I once held the belief, because remember we talked about evolving beliefs, that I don't have any opinions. And I just realized that's not fucking true. I got opinions for the people who need to hear it. For the people who need to hear me. Because there are people who emotionally, spiritually want to be set free. They want permission to be free.
Yeah.
And unless I speak out, then those people won't hear it. And I have been studying Jesus like crazy for the simple fact of not arguing with other people, but finding out which true for me and who he was for me. When I realized how much we owe as a world to Jesus, just the influence. There's a docuseries. Do not go watch it right now because we live. I'm giving you stuff to do after you watch this and 2 more videos so the algorithm go up. But listen, there's a docuseries on Prime Video called Jesus the Game Changer. And it's a game changer.
Wow. I haven't seen it.
It's 3 seasons of the impact Jesus had on every ounce of society. 3 seasons. I'm talking about from health to education to caring for the poor. Like stuff that just did not exist in the world before Jesus' example.
That's interesting.
Eric, when I say, look, give me goosebumps. When I say watching this series has made me hungry for Jesus, because I'm a history buff, it all clicked. I said, wait a minute, he's right, or they're right. These ideas did not exist in Roman period. Education for all, that didn't exist. Healthcare for that didn't exist.
Well, yeah, they didn't
Right?
want education for all
Right.
back in those times because the people that weren't educated were easier to control, easier to enslave, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah.
So bringing all this all the way back as far as being pissed off is I realize that I'm really big on my community, right? And people always talk about, well, Steve, why are you always talking about race, community, and this, that, and the other? First of all, I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about culture. It's culture,
Yeah.
right? When people here say we do it for the culture, they're talking about hip-hop culture, not all black people, right? So I'm not talking skin color. I'm talking culture. Because you could be white and from Serbia, and you could be white and from Yugoslavia, and it's 2 completely different cultures,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's still the same skin color. So I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about culture. Jesus came for the Jewish culture. Those 3 years he spent with the Jews.
He came for or he came in the Jewish culture?
He
'Cause-
came in, but that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm saying. That's where he started.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
wanted to help
yeah.
his people where he grew up, where he understood what they were going through, their mindset, their laws, their traditions, their beliefs. He didn't go start off with Rome. I don't know them. I know y'all though. So this is where I'm gonna start my ministry.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when I say I'm going to people of color with my ministry. I know our challenges. I know our belief system. I know these things. So I'm going to go where I'm comfortable and where I grew up because I know what those people. I'm not speaking for all black people, because all black people, we haven't had the same experience. And I'm not even
Right.
talking about black and Africans, because that's 2 completely different things. Black Americans and Africans, that's 2 completely different things. I'm
Sure.
talking about black Americans in a certain demographic. That is where I came from. That is what I set out to help change and elevate. Now, saying that, I wanted to start with the mind, because that's what made the difference in my life. Where I began to get pissed off was when I realized it wasn't that they didn't want to know about the mind, it's the fucking dogma that they're being preached at on Sundays that's keeping them from even wanting to know the mind. I remember being at a networking event, and this woman asked me, she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a coach. I teach people how to take control of their mind, whatever I said." She says, "Oh, I don't need to know my mind. I got Jesus." And I said, "Jesus?" Like, because these are the same people that bitch, moan, and complain about why their life is terrible, not realizing that Jesus came to say, "I came to give you a deeper understanding of the law."
Well, yeah, and not only that.
For you to take control, because
they're-
Genesis 1:26 says, "Give you dominion."
Well-
so what? Ooh, Eric,
And in Romans, it
I'm
talks
coming up out my
about
seat.
renewing your mind.
How
If
many
you're not
scriptures
reading, yeah, I mean,
are about the mind? I don't need the mind. I got Jesus. That's why I love it when Reverend Ike said, people be like, I got my religion in 1906. He said, I don't like your religion. It's too old. It's too old. Update it.
There it is. It's back to the age thing.
It's too old. Right? We know so much now that the esoteric interpretations is being proven by mind science and quantum physics. That's why I'm like, the Bible is a psychological consciousness of the human mind. Look at everything that we're getting in psychology and neurolinguistic programming and everything else that we're into in hypnosis and neurobiology and everything else. So I realize this is what I'm pissed off about, which is why now I'm going to start speaking up now more than ever, and I'm not interested or care about how deep somebody has been in theology when you got religion and no peace.
Mm. Yeah.
You got religion and no fulfillment. So if you got religion and no peace and no fulfillment, your family's in shambles and your finances are terrible, I ain't got nothing, I'm not interested in the word you say.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because it's one of the, going back to the whole, what would you say, the poverty pimping preachers?
Poverty pimping pastors. Let's make that go viral. Poverty pimping pastors.
The idea, back, it kind of comes back to that idea. It's like, well, the thing that bothers me is with that idea, and I've been in church a long time, so I've experienced a lot of that you're talking about. But the problem where it doesn't compute is that you get into the whole aspect of scarcity versus abundance. And if you ask anybody in that faith if God is abundant, they'll immediately say yes. But yet they're subscribing to this scarcity mindset. And it just doesn't make sense. I'll give you an example. Jesus turns water into wine, right? There are 6 stone water jars, and the 6 stone water jars are, they're almost 4 feet tall, and they're probably 38 gallons a piece. 6 of them, and they were filled with water. Jesus turns it into wine, and apparently it was the best wine that anybody had ever had, of course. That equals, if you take the current measurement of how wine is done in bottles, do you know how many bottles of wine that would be?
No.
It's like 970 bottles of wine.
Wait.
970.
So the amount of wine that he changed, and as far as barrels go, would be 970 bottles of wine.
It's more than that, but it's 970 plus bottles of wine that would have been.
No wonder they loved them. They was drunk all night.
They had already been drinking wine before that.
And then they called it the best wine.
Right. Now, did they call it that because it was better, or because they were drunk from the earlier batch?
I actually was wondering that. Because they're just like, usually the tradition back then was you're supposed to save the best wine. I mean, you're supposed to give the best wine in the beginning, save the trashy wine for the end.
Right, because
they're like, this is the best wine. But I'm like, I think he was already drunk.
Yeah. But,
when I'm drunk,
funny thoughts that come through. But did they need 970 bottles? No. That was an abundance, right? That was an example of, but no one's thinking about that. No one's putting those numbers together. No one's there. It's just, it's 6 stone water jars, and you just kind of move past it, not really thinking about the details. You start diving into the details, and you start seeing more of the character of God. The character of God in that example is abundance.
ladies and gentlemen, that literally was an esoteric interpretation. That's literally what we mean, though. There's a deeper meaning behind it.
Sure, but you got to dive into the details
Yeah.
to pull those out. And if that's true, and there's abundance, then and we worship and serve an abundant God, then shouldn't we have access to that same degree of abundance?
It's so funny that because during my last message for Fruit of the Spirit on Wednesday nights from 5:30 to right, shameless plug. I literally talked about how I made this amazing, like I gave the pieces to where how I and my Father are one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really broke that down because that wasn't just true for Jesus. That was also true for you.
Right.
That you and your Father are one,
Yeah.
right? And with that, it's amazing to me how that belief of, well, if God is abundant, but I have a belief system that's scarcity, that's literally showing that you don't understand who you are as far as God being in you, living through you, and as you, and permeating everything, because that is consciousness itself,
Yeah.
right? And so you are that thing, which means if that thing is abundant, you are abundant.
Right.
And the scarcity is just a belief system,
Right.
which if you don't want to renew your mind, you will never understand.
It's a limiting belief. It's a limiting belief, right?
Yeah.
And that and limiting beliefs and that type of thing is talked more about in personal development and in the coaching space.
Is it though?
I mean,
Because in the Bible, it's talked more like little faith.
right, ye of little faith.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
It's the same type of
Why do
thing.
you worry?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's still talking about limiting belief. It's just not saying limiting beliefs.
Yeah, it's not worded that way.
Right.
And yet it is that. So, but I think it's important to recognize that these things are, it's not that you're in lack. It's not that you don't have access to those things. You know, somebody's probably watching going, well, I'm sitting there and I've got these bills and et cetera, and they're all in that mindset of worry, right? And in Matthew 6, it says, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life, right? That's that scarcity. Worry comes from the scarcity space, not an abundant space. Faith comes from an abundant space. Like I have faith because I know God's abundant. I know things are going to work out. I know now there's work that I have to do, right? There's work that we have to do. We have to do our part. But it's there if we want it.
Yeah.
But we have to believe it.
Exactly. There's your part.
Exactly.
There's your part.
And
the
here's
belief is it says according to your belief it is done unto you.
Exactly.
So your part is because it's like, well, what's my part? Because I remember, I used to struggle with this so bad until our friend Esther, she was just like, you need to learn how to surrender. And
I'm
I didn't
her
even
favorite,
like.
by the way. Now
You are not her favorite.
you ask her.
You are not. You are not. She literally said that to please you because y'all was there and bonded together.
No.
Listen. You're not her favorite. So
I have a video of. And
you're not
she
Esther.
said that.
Esther, call me. Call me so we
We
can discuss
both
this.
giggled knowing
But
that
listen,
you'd be triggered by
because
that.
that's my auntie.
And
That's my auntie.
we were 30.
She can't be your auntie because you're older than she is. So listen.
I'm not, by the way.
Listen.
I'm not.
I forgot my damn train of thought. See, this is why I don't like doing this podcast with you.
No, but we're talking about belief.
Oh.
And the point is of belief is what is the single thing that Jesus preached more than anything else?
Beliefs.
Believe.
Mm-hmm.
Believe. And then the second one was, and repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. But believe. Why? He didn't preach. Here's a kicker for some. He didn't preach baptism.
No.
What?
All you got to
Now,
do is go read it.
Baptism's a part of it. Read it in the scripture. Read what it is. Read why, all that. And that's part of it. But what was the single thing that he said more than anything else was believe? And it's,
So doing our part with the belief, which is why, again, because on this podcast, we're going to bring science and faith and combine it as one. This is why you have to understand. This is why you have to understand the laws of the universe. Because it's really it's easier to believe when you understand how the system works. And what people in dogma like to do is separate God from the universe. And it's like that can't be any more ignorant. Because it's literally the same thing. And
I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay,
I'm
push
gonna
back.
push back on that. It's not the same thing because the universe is created. God is.
Okay, but hold on. Let's because what we're going back and forth on. I got it, but what we're going back and forth on is this word God, and this word God creates an image in people's head of a human being like figure creating everything.
I mean, we don't know that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That's man's interpretation of God. Okay?
Yeah.
But if God is everything, then God is formless. God is formless.
Well, spirit. I mean, you don't.
It's everything. That means it's the universe. It is you. It is me. It's this damn chair. It's everything. It's everything. It's either everything or it's not everything. So it is the universe, and it is it's the creator and the created. It's everything.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I think it's important to not make here's why the word universe is a trigger, and it's for that client that you had that you mentioned on the earlier podcast. Universe is a trigger because the universe in and of itself is created.
Yeah.
And there's a separation between the creator and the created.
I get that part.
So that's why it's a trigger, right? I understand what you're saying is that God is in everything, and I believe that. Like, this is why when we go out in nature and we see the things that he created, we feel him. We feel his presence. We see his fingerprints. But in and of themselves, they're not him. Does that make sense?
I get it. But
like if you create something, let's just break it down
Uh-huh.
in the simplest form. Like if you created something, let's say you had a Lego set and you were making some Legos and you created this really elaborate, really cool Lego
Uh-huh.
something. What would it be? What would you create out of Legos? First thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it too much.
An airplane.
Okay, so Steve makes an airplane out of Legos. You created this plane. Is the plane in and of itself Steve?
No.
No. And so that's where the trigger comes in. Where the trigger comes in is that, oh, I'm worshiping the plane when the worship should be of the creator.
But understanding the universe is not worshiping the universe. That
Okay,
that is the
that's an important distinction.
Because that's not what what I'm
Exactly,
saying.
but that's
I am
the
not
confusion.
saying worship the universe. I'm saying understand it.
Yeah.
Because to not understand the law of correspondence, to not understand the law of cause and effect, to not understand these laws is to not understand because the Bible says, give you dominion.
Right.
You have full discernment over what happens in your life. And you got discernment on what you receive and what you don't receive. And guess what? There are laws to creation.
Yeah.
So ain't no way I'm saying that.
I know you're not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out.
But I want to
that's
talk
where
to the mother
trigger comes
sitting out
from.
there thinking that I'm saying worship the universe. What I'm saying is, first of all, it's everything. It's all of it. That's number one. But if you want to break it down to the granular, No, I'm not saying worship the universe. What I am saying is understand it, because of God gave you the power. You the power to create your own reality through your own thinking, through your own belief system, and to understand the universal laws is to understand the power God gave you. So the fact that somebody has convinced you that you don't have no power is the reason why you're so offended by my words right now, because you refuse to see yourself at the level that God created you to be, because that is the reason why Jesus was getting so mad, because they kept saying, well, Jesus, we're just men. And Jesus said, shit, I'm a fucking man too. 80 times Jesus called himself the Son of God, the Son of Man. But if you translate the Son of Man into its regular Hebrew translation, it means human being. Jesus said 80 times he was a human being. And he got so mad because they kept wanting to see themselves so small, because Rome taught them to see themselves so small, and he was trying to get them to see themselves bigger than what Rome has convinced them they are. And what I'm sitting here doing right now is telling you in your fucking book, in your scriptures, that God created you in his image to be like him, with the nature and characteristics of him, and gave you the power and you the dominion to create reality as you see fit. But Rome has convinced you to see yourself so small that you get offended by my words instead of being inspired.
I think we're done. I mean, there you have it. And our batteries are about to die. So do we need to keep going? I
said what I said.
I think we leave it on that note. I don't think there's anything else to add to that. I think we should just close it out.
We're done.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Super grateful to have you along this journey, this conversation that we have.
I love you, brother.
The ideas, the things that we're unpacking, the passion in which Steve shares things, and the wisdom that he shares them from. Grateful to be able to do this together with you, coming from different backgrounds. I think it's a great lesson for not just for each of us, but for everybody that's watching, that we can come from different backgrounds and we can be unified and we can have a great relationship. And this is what that looks like. And if the world can do more of this kind of stuff, respecting one another and honoring one another, even when we disagree, that in and of itself is a level of self-mastery that needs to be more of. We need more of that. Grateful for you. Grateful for doing this. This is Self-Mastery Sunday, where we talk about the glue, God, love, and you with your coach,
Steve Bacon.
Bacon. And POP.
Hold it down. Professor of Possibility. My brother, I cannot think of doing this with anybody else but you. Seriously, I love you. Thank you so much. And I love doing this live, by the way. At least once,
maybe
once a quarter or once a month, we got to do this live. I love it. I love it because I feel like we're walking a tight, what do you call it?
Tightrope.
There it is. And I got to pee. Can we close?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, same.
We done.
All right.
Oh, man, that was fun. That was fun.
We gained a whopping 6 views.
Yay! I'll take it.
Yeah, good job, guys.
I'll take it.